Good evening, one and all. We welcome you to the International Webinar Series on Holistic Health, Well-being and Sustainable Development 2022, commemorating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, nation celebrating 75 years of independence, UN Sustainable Development Goals 2015-2030. Before we start our session, let's take blessings of Almighty.
$48.
कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः
With the blessings of Almighty, we shall continue to today's session. Today we have with us Ms. Rahab Yachat Khwaja from Nigeria. She is lecturer in ECWA College of Education, JOS, Assistant Program Officer, African Initiative for Peace Building, Advocacy and Advancement, founder CEO, Help the Age Initiative. We welcome you for the webinar series and invite you to take over for your session on types of post-traumatic experiences aged face following violent conflict in Nigeria. Over to you. You can unmute yourself. Khwaja.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening.
We can't hear your voice.
Good evening.
Yeah, now it's fine.
Hello?
Yeah, you can start your video and start
Okay,
your
good.
presentation.
Okay. Good evening to us all. My name is Rahab Yachat Khwaja from Nigeria, and this evening I'm going to be talking on the types of post-traumatic stress experiences aged face following violence conflict in Nigeria. And I want to thank the organizers of this conference for the opportunity given to me to speak on this wonderful topic we are going to be digesting this evening. Thank you very much, ma'am, for the privilege. I count it a privilege. So without wasting much of time, we're going to look at what these experiences are. I'll first of all start by looking at what post-traumatic stress are. Post-traumatic stress are anxiety disorders that can occur following the experiences witnessed of a traumatic event. So these are disorders that people face following a traumatic event or a traumatic experiences. And we all know all over the world, we've been having series of chaos, crisis, conflict here and there, and Nigeria is not an exception. Nigeria has not been left out of these traumatic experiences. And we have quite a number of agents that have been exposed to most of this violent conflict. And this prompted me to go into research in this area to find out what do the agents go through following the occurrence of this conflict experiences. And so like I said, post-traumatic stresses, they are anxieties disorder that follows traumatic experiences. So there are quite a number of traumatic experiences that agents go through as a result of violent conflict, especially in Nigeria. One of them is the re-experiencing symptoms. Now, most agents in this country or in Nigeria live in disadvantaged society, or they live in rural areas, so to say. And so we find out that they are actually, when conflicts happen, they mostly are at the receiving end. And so these are some of the places, some of the items or some of the experiences they go through. We find out that most of them have reportedly, from as we search on this research, we discovered that most of them report cases of losing their loved ones, their grandchildren, and which with about 50% of agents reporting to have lost either a loved one and a grandchild, or a death of a relation as a result of violent conflict. Notable of them, one agent also, she said, and I quote, about half, she said, my family members have been killed. This violence have caused me more harm than pain. I have lost everything I have ever valued and kept. I have lost it all at the cost of this violence. This was one agent sharing her experience with us of how she lost so many people within a day as a result of violent conflict. And then some of them have also reported cases of having to endure physical injury or becoming handicapped as a result of the violent conflict. And so for some, they become amputated, they got their legs amputated because maybe they either sustained a gunshot injury at the leg, and then the leg had to be amputated to save them, and some went blind. Maybe and so those were some of the cases we were able to get from the field. And then some lost, virtually almost 100% of participants reported losing property in one way or the other, and having to lose their source of livelihood, and having their houses burned, their farmland destroyed, cattle rustled, and all of that. And so these has times of conflict, these experiences they've been going through, and then some have actually become displaced. They are no longer living in their villages. They have to relocate, and some have to take cover and relocate to other locations in order to avoid being killed or facing further destruction as caused by the violence. And so at the course of this study, we were able to come up with some using the DSM-5 of the APA to criteria to measure some of these experiences the agents are going through. We identify about 4 different types of post-PTSDs, traumatic types of PTSDs that agents go through as a result of violent conflict. One of them, like I mentioned earlier, is re-experiencing. And what we were able to get at from the field, the results show that most agents have imaging, they mostly sit down and they imagine relocating back to their burnt houses or their villages. They sit down and they begin to think, I wish I am able to go back to my home. I miss home. I want to be home. And sometimes they sit down and begin to imagine themselves being at home, the home they've lost either due to the violent conflict years back or months back, as the case may be. And so sometimes some of them also reported cases of seeing imaging of corpses, that's dead people. Some say, and I wish to quote one. She said, I see their corpses in my dreams. And sometimes in reality, when I sit down, I just see corpse. Okay, so agents have reported these re-experiencing symptoms over and over again as a result of violent conflict they've been exposed to. Some also, they said they have feeling, they feel like people are chasing after their own life. Some, they have this illusion, and they sometimes like they feel like someone is after their life and wants to kill them. Okay, because as a result of the conflict. And saying some also reported how having distressing image of burnt houses, burnt dead body, cars, properties, and some also have developed mental pictures of people carrying gun around, and sometimes also some have also reported seeing distressing image of graveyards and hear people screaming and all that you can think of. And so agents exposed to violent conflict have been having these re-experiencing symptoms on the as intrusive memories that have actually been really distracting to their well-being. They've not really been coping well because they kept having a repeat of the events and some kind of illusion or the other. And so some have also reported having distressing dreams. Okay, they said sometimes they dream of their dead beloved ones. Sometimes they always one reported that I always dream of being killed by someone or attempting to be killed by them. So they always have terrible dreams of people trying to kill them or people attacking them or wild animal attacking them in their dreams. And some have also reported the case of being unable to sleep because of scary dreams that they have following such violent conflict. And so when some even reported having dreams of their worship centers being burned down and all of that. So agents have reported series of distressing dreams that are traumatic in nature and they occur during and after violent conflict, and so sometimes some of them become the associative in their reaction. So they develop what we call the associative reaction. And so some of them reported assuming cars and stone breaking sound to be gone, that because of the increased sound they hear when there are violence, the gunshot and all of that, some of them begin to imagine, even when there are no gunshot, each count, they associate other sounds with gunshot, what we call daydreaming. They daydream in the day, and most of these dreams they reported are actually really scary dreams. Okay, some most at time become suicidal. They develop suicidal thoughts. Now, and I want to quote one of them. She said, "I do feel like the day is being replayed in front of me, and I see images of burnt houses, cars, and our property that were set ablaze. Sometimes I wish I could just kill myself and forget about this. And so we see them becoming suicidal and thinking suicide, feeling at their age, they shouldn't be seeing the conflict, they shouldn't be experiencing the conflict, they shouldn't be exposed to such. And as sometimes they pray, you find some of them praying, God, why not just take me? Let me just die and then forget about this thing. And so these are some of the experiences that agents have actually been going through as a result of violent conflict in Nigeria. So they develop a lot of suicidal thoughts, and that if and when they are not properly being guided, or counsel, we find out that some of them actually engage in suicide in one way or the other, you see. And so these are some of the experiencing symptoms that agents have actually been going through. Some get scared, reported getting scared all the time. Some reported feeling terrible, devastated. Some reported having persistent negative emotion, being in persistent negative emotional state at all time. There are no moments that they have this positive emotional feeling. They always feel life is, their old age is not productive. They have become so they become so vulnerable to a wicked society. Some feel they even fear associating with other people, and so on and so forth. So these are some even reported feeling unfortunate and being cheated in this same society because of the situation the violence have taken them to. And so these are some of the re-experiencing symptoms they've been battling with, and these symptoms, according to them, mostly repeat itself again and again. And so it becomes so traumatizing that they have to go through a similar experience day in, day out, to the point that many of them wish they were dead. And so that is where the suicidal thoughts mostly comes in. Some reported being always sweating excessively. They have this physiological reaction, and that they find themselves sweating. Some find themselves experiencing increasing heartbeats. Some find themselves having back pain or body pain. They've never, that seem not to have some kind of medical connection. And so some even reported being diagnosed with some kind of stomach ache, discomfort, and all those physiological symptoms they present, but that are having psychological implications. Now, the one unique thing about this is that they present this physiological symptoms, but when they go to the hospital to get tested or to find out if actually they are really they are sick, you find out that the test results comes out negatively, meaning it's more of psychological than it is physiological. And I will link that to the violent conflict experience as experiencing symptoms that the agents do face. And so another psychological symptom, PTSD symptom that agents do go through after following this violent conflict with weakness, the series of violent conflict with weakness is avoidance symptoms. Now, this is very, 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 very serious and very, very, very important, because agents at this stage of their life are supposed to be all embracing. They are supposed to be rallied. They are supposed to have people rally around their life and caring for them. And so because of this violent conflict and the exposure and the traumatic experience it comes with it, you find out that agents rather, in most cases, they develop what we call avoidance symptoms. They avoid the same people that are supposed to be taking care of them. And so some of them report issues like they engage in irrelevant activities just to forget about the conflict and the pain. You find them doing things that are not even relevant, that they shouldn't be doing, just because in an attempt to forget about the experience or to put the experience away from them. So some of them actually, in most cases, also in some cases, you find out that some of them try as much as possible not to talk about the conflict. citing an example with one of them. Now, when we were interviewing her, she said, I bury my thoughts and emotions on playing Ludo or Dara. That's a game with my grandchildren. He said, we talk a lot with my wife and kids before I go to bed. So most of them don't want to talk about anything that is related to the conflict. They don't want you to even mention it. What you should note is that even when we were conducting this interview and trying to get about their experience, in fact, we had to do series and series. At some point, we had to stop some interviews because we discovered that the questions were actually triggering some kind of reaction that were putting the agent in a more life-threatening situation, because it was like they buried the experience away, and here we were asking them about the experience. So it means they have to recall all of it again, all over again. And so we discovered that in the process of recalling, most of them didn't want to continue with the interview. And so we had to withdraw. And so we discovered that agents, they develop these avoidance symptoms, and they do things intentionally just to not want to remember what has happened, in an attempt to not, because it's not a pleasant experience. And so the safe landing will be to avoid. And so some even said there are so many in Nigeria. We are blessed with diverse culture, diverse identity, and we have each culture is blessed with is given opportunity to celebrate its cultural festival and all of that. And notably to some agents we've interviewed, and a quite number of them, they've avoided most of these activities that they always find joy in doing. In attending. Like one said, just to quote, he said, I have avoided attending Zen Mbirom because each time I attend that event, it reminds me of the day my village was attacked. So we could see even the activities that was initiated by the agents who they try to avoid such activities because those activities have been infiltrated with violent conflict, and so they don't want to experience it, and so they face what we call avoidance. And so that has been one of the problems that the agents are facing. And then we see them doing that. And then some also said that one thing they do to help them avoid is that he said playing when the thought of the conflict comes up. So more of like a way of compensating and saying, oh, I can do this, I can come out, God is my dependent. Some of them find themselves just praying so that they don't remember it, so that the thoughts just go away. They just pray that the thoughts will just go away so that they can forget about it and all of that. And so that has been some of the experiences that the agents go through as a way of avoiding avoiding the pain that comes with the violent conflict. And then some of them, one thing we also discover, the research we were able to get is that most of them also have they avoid external reminder. So anything that is going to remind them of the conflict, they put it away. And so for some of them, one external reminder that kept repeating itself in each of the respondents we were able to interview is that they try as much as possible to avoid having contact with people that remind them of the conflict. For instance, now, the conflict mostly is is between the herders and the farmers. So if you meet a herder and you're interviewing a herder, an aged herder, he tells you, I don't want to see a farmer because each time I set my eyes on a farmer, I am reminded of the conflict. When you meet a farmer and then he will tell you, I don't want to ever have anything to do with a herder. Because each time I see a herder, I'm reminded of the conflict and I don't want the experience. So we can see agents are working hard. They are working hard to avoid anything, any external reminder, anything that is going to remind them of the violent conflict actually been exposed to or they have experienced. And so some of them also try to avoid engaging in family activities. Some majority of them are either farmers or herders. That they are into agriculture. We discover that they've lost even interest in all those activities that have actually been their lifeline, that have kept them going. They avoid all those activities. Some said they avoid even going to the market. Some are reported avoid attending funerals, occasions, and all anywhere there are gathering of people. Only the reason being because some of the experiences we've had with this violent conflict is that most of the time they start or people are attacked during social gathering or where there are a group of people gathering. And so for those that have experienced such scenario, they try as much as possible to avoid anything that will bring them in contact with a group of people. And so that has been. And so they have this diminishing interest in all, diminished interest in participation in any activities that will remind them of the violent conflict. Another factor that agents have also actually experienced as a result of violent conflict is what we know as hyperarousal symptoms. Another symptom is the hyperarousal symptom. Now, this experience is actually really unique in the life of the agent. Like it is, you find out that the agent becomes irritable and gets angry, outbursts of anger at all time. And so, what happened in hyperarousal is that the agent you find the person they get angry unreasonably, they get upset unreasonably, not minding. I mean, they just find themselves getting upset unreasonably. And then that has actually affects their mental well-being and even their physical well-being. Some said they hate being asked questions about the conflict. As I said, some don't want to remember the event. They hate the fact that when someone has to ask them what happened, what went wrong, so they just hate people unreasonably, and then they find themselves getting angry and feeling hatred on the side of people. And so as a result of the conflict, especially to those they consider as significantly others, people that they see, if it is a herder, he will tell you, I just hate the sight of a farmer. I don't want to see him. And so that has been their case. And so and for some, you find out that they don't want to hear people discussing about the conflict. Some have reported cases whereby they transfer aggression to other people, that they just find themselves just hate transferring that same aggression to other people, to innocent others, to people that don't even know anything about the conflict. They just find themselves transferring such kind of aggression. And so to say, we actually witnessed this while we were in the field, as we were interviewing and trying to do the KI and a focus group discussion concerning getting the data and all of that. We found out that some agents, upon asking just few questions into the research, and when they understand, even as the point of seeking their informed consent before the research, they just get angry, and then they flare up. They don't want to talk about it, and in fact, they insult some of us, all in the name of they don't want to remember. They don't want to be asked anything about the conflict. So we can see they are very sorry, you can see that they are very they become so aggressive. I apologize for that. They become so aggressive and are unable to cope in their situation. And so some of them, you find out that they involve in reckless behavior or self-destructive behavior. So you find out that they get, they engage in excessive alcohol intake. Some of them have become excessive alcohol in an attempt, according to them, in an attempt to forget about the conflict. So they find themselves getting more into drugs, and they take a lot of alcohol, all in the name of, all in an attempt to be able to just forget about the conflict, to be able to sleep and to come out of their traumatic experiencing. And so you find out that some have even reported cases of walking into moving cars unknowingly, and some have also attempted suicide, like I mentioned earlier. Some have refused to eat or take their drugs, all in an attempt to forget about the conflict and not wanting to talk about it. That has been the experiences of aged. So they've been engaged in reckless or self-destructive behavior that are very harmful to even themselves. Like somebody reported, one of them reported, he said, I find myself just shouting at the top of my voice at every little provocation. Sometimes I get angry with one person because of what another person has done, which irritates me. That's transfer of aggression. And so some have reported so many other things, so many other reckless behaviors they've done. And then one of them, I said, before this conflict, I was drinking alcohol, but not this much. But this event had turned me into an alcoholic, that I cannot even help myself. If you see me in the night when I am drunk, I believe you will not want to have this discussion with me. That is a respondent responding to one of our questions, saying that he was not, they were not this alcoholic, but this conflict have turned them into something that when you even see them in the daytime, you will not want to talk about it, or you will not want to talk to them. And so that has been the experiences so far. And so some of them get into, like I said, they have problem. And another problem they also face is they become so, I have mentioned, they are very hyper-vigilant. They pay attention to every noise. One thing they also do that is actually detrimental to their health. Okay, one of the things they do is that they pay attention to to gunshots, being jumpy and overly alert. Some of them become so very overly alert that at every little provocation they are very alert, and then they have increased have increased attention to every little sound. Some of them, they are very reckless. They find themselves being reckless in their behavior, and they engage in behaviors that can actually be harmful even to their well-being. And so we find out that aged exposed to post-traumatic to violent conflict express this PTSD symptom. And then another thing we also find out that some of them become exaggerated, and they are just startled. They have these startled responses like shivering, their body shivering. That's some of the physiological responses when they are reminded of the conflict. Some of them find themselves breathing faster. Some have this kind of increased heartbeat. Some, their hands begin to tremble and all of that they cannot even hold a pen. And then some of them, they find themselves sweating they sweat excessively even when the weather is very friendly. Some reported having, they've just, each time they are reminded of the conflict, they feel like going to toilet or feel like just throwing up and all of that. Some become jumpy, and then they are easily startled. And some said they scream. They find themselves just screaming to themselves, and they don't know why. They just sit down and they find themselves screaming. And so some also reported having problems with concentrations, that they are not able to concentrate. They don't care about anything that is happening in their environment. And some said they pay close attention to sounds. And so each sound they hear, they feel as if it is a sound of a gunshot also. And so that has been very traumatic to them. And some have reported cases of having sleep disturbances, that they are not able to sleep. Some say they wake up late at night and are unable to go back to sleep. Some say they have nightmares and disrupt sleep. Some find it difficulty. They find it very difficult to even go to sleep without taking drugs. So meaning their whole life, since after the conflict, they actually depend on certain kind of drugs to be able to go to bed. And so some also reported having been unable to sleep. They cry all night and they find themselves unable to sleep. And so that has been the experience. And then that has been the experience on the hyperarousal, the kind of different types of hyperarousal symptoms that agents exposed to violence, conflict goes. Because of this research, we also find other psychological PTSD symptoms that agents are also exposed to, that also go through. I mean, that are not actually categorized according to the DSM-5 of the APA. And so we label them as other psychological symptoms. And one of them is that some of them, they find themselves, they feel as if their future hopes or plans will not come true. They have this feeling of, I mean, do I even have a future? If I do, with the onset of conflict, lack of peace, and all of that, these future plans will not come to reality. And though some of them feel so devastated, they feel so frustrated with the system. Some have the reported feeling of depression. They are depressed. They feel some reported cases of crying all the time. Some said they withdraw from people and stay alone. Some said they feel pain, but they are not able to share the pain. They don't even know who to share the pain with. Like they feel, oh, I'm in pain, I am going through this, but I don't even know who to talk to. Even they don't just seem to see the right people to discuss their pains with, okay? I'm talking about psychological pain. And then some of them said they hate their life and they turn out in vain. Some said, reported cases of hating themselves. They don't find any comfort in themselves. And then some said they have a feeling of emotion. They can't even express what they are going through. They are not unable to love other people or to even respect other people. And so they are just living for living sake. They are just being there. And so some said they find themselves behave weirdly on the street, and then they talk to themselves, and then they said, and all of that. Some said, which is really, really a tough one, they said they find it difficult to forgive what has happened. They said they don't know if they are able to, they will be able to develop the habit or will be able to forgive what has happened. And so this has been the experiences that have actually been exposed to violence, conflict in have actually become suicidal and killed themselves as a result. Some have actually, depression has set in. Some don't find happiness, they don't find joy in living. Some have they have so many flashbacks of the event that is affecting their functioning, their current stage of functioning, that they are not able to function at their age. And some of them lost faith even in themselves and even their family members and the society in which they live in. Some had wished they were not born, and then they wish something better should be done. And so that has been a lot, that has been a synopsis of their experience. And so, so this study actually has contributed to knowledge by identifying some of the PTSD symptoms that agents have been facing in this country, in Nigeria, as a result of the violent conflict. I will take a pause, and then maybe we'll take questions, and thank you very much. Hello. Hello. Dr. Ramvidra? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, it was wonderful session. Participants, if you have any queries, feel free to share your comments, observations.
Hi, ma'am. Actually, I've done really excellent job because you shared different concept which I have not heard. It's more learning session and lot of takeaway session. And I jotted down a lot of points which you said. So for me, it's a lot of learning and understanding about your country, then how Nigeria. It's a great pleasure that I brought you here. I'm so honored. All the best,
Thank
ma'am,
you.
for your profession and all the best for your life. God bless you. Take care.
Thank you. Amen. Thank you.
Yeah, anyone else, if you would like to share, you can feel free to share. Yeah, Khwaja, I have one clarification. I mean, not with respect to topic, but also with respect to this terrorism psychology. So how different,
Okay.
how different is it from abnormal psychology, and what actually is taught in terrorism psychology? Because we don't have that subject or specialization here. So would like to know more
Okay.
about it.
Okay. All right. Terrorism psychology is actually really different from abnormal psychology, but slightly different. It's a branch of social psychology. Its concentration mostly is on the social behavior and why people go into terrorism. And so that is why it's linked with social and terrorism psychology. It's actually an aspect of social psychology. And so you and I know that the whole world now is terrorists are actually really giving the department felt getting up. Terrorists, people choose to actually embark on suicide mission, why people choose to do terrible things in form of terrorism. And so that is why the psychology of terrorism came in. And now it looks at actually, I would say it's like related to the abnormal psychology you're talking about, because terrorism in itself is actually an abnormal behavior. So it actually focuses on why people leave the normal and goes for the abnormal behavior. And so it's actually an aspect of social psychology, and I think it's a good one if you can start a department on that and have people. I mean, it's really broad and very interesting. And there are quite a lot of materials on social and terrorism psychology outlined. And then even the APA, you get that on the APA website and all of that. There are a lot of information on terrorism psychology on the APA. That's American Psychological Association website. I hope I don't know if I've answered your question.
Yeah, we have, I think, 54 divisions, I think. Which division deals with this terrorism psychology? Any idea?
Sir?
In APA, we have different divisions, like which division deals with this terrorism psychology? Any idea?
Sorry, I didn't get you very well.
In APA, we have different divisions, clinical psychology, social psychology.
Okay, it's
So
social
which
psychology.
division? Which
the
division?
division of social psychology.
It comes under social
Yeah,
psychology?
Yes, social psychology.
Okay. So how do you define a terrorist or terrorism in a terrorist psychology, terrorism psychology?
Yes, sir.
How do you define a terrorist or terrorism in a terrorism psychology? Can you define it?
Okay, terrorism psychology is the did you say I should define a terrorism or terrorism psychology?
Both. Terrorism as described or as defined in terrorism psychology.
Okay, terrorism as defined in psychology is the scientific study of the mind of the terrorist.
So how do can you briefly explain about the subject, what is ALDELT, because it will give insights to Indian and other countries where we don't have such we have as a subject, as a unit, but not as a complete subject. We have forensic psychology, but we would like to learn how different or how similar it is.
Okay, for us, let me just share our Nigeria experience. I hope it helps. Okay, for us in Nigeria, we've discovered that people don't just go into terrorism. There's always a mindset, there's always an ideology that is always pulling people. And so we discover that most of this ideology, actually, you find out that it is it's just a minority or an individual ideology that he sells out to another individual, and then the link goes on and people begin to buy into such ideology and then want to become a terrorist. And so it's actually more of like a fundamental ideologies that people, it happens. Now, Richie, citing example with the Boko Haram movement started. The ill happening in the city, according to them, was not actually favorable to the society, because according to them, that this same society, there were people that were corrupt, or government officials were very, very corrupt, and then they were not exposed to, they were not given the masses what they should have given them. And so they formed a segment, a group of people came together and to label and said, if this going to education, the meaning of Boko Haram is in Hausa language in Nigeria. So it means education is sinful, or education is not accepted. That is the meaning of the word Boko Haram. And so they said, if we will have education system according to their ideology, now that if we have a certain educational system in this country going on, and then yet we have people going to school and coming out of the school, and the society is becoming more corrupt over and over again. Therefore, it means that this education is actually what is bringing problem to the society, and so education should be abandoned or it should be stopped. And so that was how the ideology started. And so some religion fundamentalists took on that part of it and begin to and attach some religion sentiment to it, which I wouldn't want to go into that. And they started operating. And as they started operating in a small village, it was noted that they went into farming. They farmed their produce, and then they were a small segment that actually were interested in fighting corruption in the society. So when they farmed their produce, they were taking those produce to the markets to market them and all of that. And then they were interrupted by the police. And so in the process of the interrogation, they were stopped, and then they started, I mean, I don't know, one thing led to the other, and their leader was eventually arrested and out. And then people went into, and they had more people. In fact, people went into it voluntarily without even being forced, and then all of that, and to the point we are today. And so this is what terrorism psychology focused in. Now, it's just to look at the mind of the terrorists. I'm using the Nigerian scenario now. What actually led people into these acts? What led them into the terrorism? There are other factors that led people into this. And so the whole idea is that we have a problem in this country, which is terrorism. It is common and it is affecting every citizen. And so which aspect of psychology will actually be able to help us to settle this? And so that is why it was carved out of social psychology. And now in the aspect of social psychology, our focus was put on the individual identity, how people think, and all of that, diversity and all of that. And so that has been the issue, the Nigerian experience. And so for the Indian, I don't really know much about terrorism in India, so I can't say much about it, or I don't know if I'm even answering your question correctly. Sorry. Hello? Doctor, can you hear me? Hello, doctor. Hello?
Hello? Hello, sorry, there was some network issue.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So it was nice. It was a wonderful session. Nice listening to you. Participants, if you have any queries, you feel free. Yeah, though we do not have any specialization, we study it as part of other courses.
Okay.
Different courses in which this is studied.
Okay.
So it was nice listening to you. Thank you once again for joining us. And we wish you all the success for your future endeavors, and look forward for more sessions in future. And we thank you on behalf of Sri Holistic Health Foundation India and Sri Research Institute Center for Arts, Sciences and Wellbeing. Thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you very much, and it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Dear friends, kindly find the feedback link in the chat box. Kindly fill up the feedback form. It is mandatory to receive certificate. Certificate will be generated within 15 working days on the website. You can visit website and download your certificates.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
And for those who have queries how to download your certificate, let me show you, demonstrate you. you need to visit the website sricasw.org. It's mentioned on the flyer and as well as registration message, registration forms everywhere. And you need to click on this international webinar series on holistic health and sustainable development. You can see here daily. And once you click on that, you can visit a dedicated website. Here you can see weekdays, Sundays, special days. So you can click on weekdays and select today's date or whichever date you have attended. Every day webinars are happening, so you can select the appropriate date. You can select today's date. And you can find the flyer. Sorry, this is different. Just below the flyer, you can see e-certificate for participants. Here, download link will be provided. See, for example, some other day we will take. See, just below the flyer, you can see the link. Once you click on this, Google Drive will open and you can download your certificates. Eligibility is you have to register, you have to attend and fill the feedback form. Thank you for attending. Kindly fill up the feedback form. Before leaving the webinar, kindly fill up the feedback form. So see you all tomorrow at the same time with different topic. Take care. Good night. certificate will be provided within 15 working days. This is just feedback form. After verifying your registration, attendance and feedback form, it will be generated. And it will be updated on the website. You can download after 1 week visiting the website.